For the remainder of this video, you and I are going to put a plan together to help you break through your current ceilings and scale your business to a level that you would have never imagined you could do in a much shorter period of time than what you can imagine, with it making much less mistakes in the most cost effective way possible too. And we're going to do it together. I run a business. That's what I spend the majority of my time on. I have my own agency as you run your own business. And what we're going to do is going to be to essentially plan to grow our businesses together. Now, in order to do this effectively, I need you to make a commitment to, number one, take immediate aggressive action. And number two, actually put the time aside that you see the bottom right section somewhere that tells you how long this video is going to go for, because I don't really know how long I'm going to record this video for. I'll go for as long as it's needed, as long as it's that's required to for me to feel like I've given you what I feel like I need to get across for you to break through. Um, I want you to make the commitment to actually sit down and exit your Instagram and your Slack and your email and just completely focus on this, because it will be one of the most important videos that you will watch today, that you will, one of the most important tasks that you will do today. If you're stuck at 10, 15, 20, 30K a month, there is nothing that is more important than watching a video like this, because I'll help you break through it. I've already broken through it. I know exactly what you need to do. So is there really something else that's more important than this? Probably not, right? Don't worry about checking your emails. Don't check your ads. Don't worry about performance right now. Don't worry about, launching new ads, putting together new creatives. All of that stuff is important, but this takes precedent. Trust me. It takes precedent. It's more important than anything else that you would do, because what you're about to work on, you may help you grow a bit, but this is for certain going to help you actually break through, and it will give you the answers to all the questions that you currently have, and the questions you will eventually have too. So if you have actually taken the time to pause this video, grab a notebook and grab a pen and put the time aside to take this seriously, congratulations. You've taken a massive, massive step in the right direction. And I promise by the end of this video, you're going to walk away with an amazing plan. And in 3 months' time, 6 months' time, you'll be messaging me telling me this was the video that helped you break through your current ceilings. Now, if you haven't, I can also say with brutal honesty, you're going to be wasting your time continuing to watch this video. Now, I know there aren't many other people out there on YouTube that will encourage people to click off because it hurts them in the algorithm. But you can see from my channel, I don't get a lot of views. My videos aren't made for the mass public. They're made for those entrepreneurs and business owners that want to actually come and get genuine, real, like non-flashy advice on how to grow their business. So click off and don't waste your time. You're not ready to grow if you're not ready to sit down, grab a notebook and a pen, and put the necessary time aside to watch this. Okay. So if you have, like I said, and you're still watching, let's get right into it. So let's start at a high level. Okay. You've got your pen, you got your notebook, and you put the time aside. Let's start at a really high level. We'll establish some terms. We'll establish the underlying intent of what it is that we're trying to do here. So the intention of this video, the end outcome that we're trying to achieve, is for us together to break through our current ceilings. Now, what is a ceiling? In business, a ceiling is typically a revenue and profit number that we have not yet broken through. We may have gotten close to it. We may be hovering around that range. We may have gotten just above it, but we've went backwards. But we haven't. It's still a ceiling. It's like once we get there, we kind of hit that ceiling, and we might go just a little bit above, but then we go back down, or we're currently hovering at that ceiling. So let's say that ceiling for you is 20 grand a month. You get to maybe 19, then you get back down to 16, then you're at 17, then you might get to 21, then you're back down to 19, and you're just stagnating, and you've hit that ceiling, and you're trying everything, but you're just not breaking through. Now, what does breaking through mean? Breaking through doesn't mean to go from, like, let's say your ceiling is 20 grand. Breaking through doesn't mean getting to 23 grand. Breaking through is when you reach like some sort of like terminal velocity where you go, say 17, 18, and you're trying to get past 20, and then you go 27, 32. Right? That's breaking through where you've genuinely broken through your ceiling. And now that ceiling becomes your new floor, where now you don't go below 22 or 20. That becomes your new bottom. That's what a breakthrough to me looks like. And that's essentially what we're establishing. So, first thing I want you to do is I want you to write down what your ceiling is. What is your ceiling of growth? Let's write that down. And I want you to write down both the revenue number and I want you to write down the profit number. Now, with profitability, I just want to kind of put a little bit of a caveat here. Even when I think about my own profitability, profit itself is really important, right? If you're and obviously we want to make as much profit as possible, but we also have to acknowledge that our business will go through different stages of growth. There will be stages where you're not as profitable because you're hiring team members, but you're setting up to be much more profitable in the future. So let's say, for example, you're at 15 grand. Currently, you do everything yourself, so your profit's 15,000. You may need to hire people and get to 7.5 grand in profit, so you add on 7.5 grand in expenses. But by doing that, you then create a ceiling where your new ceiling becomes 35K. So you can actually scale to 35K, keep your 7.5 grand in expenses. Hypothetically speaking, by the way, these aren't really accurate numbers. And it depends on your business model. But that's what I mean. So you may be less profitable for a period of time to set yourself up to then scale where you will eventually make more profit. So for me, I like to look at things just from a revenue point of view. To me, revenue is a good indicator because profit can be subjective, but revenue really is what it is. If I get to a point where I'm at 100,000 a month in revenue, I know that there are moves that I can make to increase profitability. Like let's say you get to 100K a month in revenue and your profitability is like 30%, 20%. It's not very profitable. You're making 20, 30 grand a month in profit. You could make 20, 30 grand a month in profit realistically with a very lean business at 50K a month, 55K, 60K a month. I remember years and years ago, back in 2020, I was running my agency at the time, which was more a web dev company, and we did 55K a month roughly in revenue, and I was making easily 25 to 30K in net profit. So, and that was, I think, after paying myself a wage too. So it's very possible to operate a really, really lean business. But when you want to start accelerating your growth, you'll then have to hire people and you'll do less. So you can spend your time more working on the business. And so therefore you're going to become less profitable. So let's just have a revenue number that we want to reach. So I'm writing mine and I want you to write down yours. Let's put your revenue number as this is like essentially your ceiling. So I've written down mine. I want you to write down yours. Now, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to write down where you currently are at. So where you currently are at would be maybe your average. Like where are you hovering around? And not necessarily what you just did, but where do you naturally hover around? So if your ceiling is 50K per month and you're currently doing anywhere between say 25 to 30, put like 27.5. So put where you're currently at. So I'm about to do mine. Perfect. So now we've got our ceiling revenue goal. We have our where we're currently at the moment. Also, don't mind the pink pen. Um, and then we want to ask ourselves a really a question that exposes the answers, a lot of answers to other questions. So, like if you look at your current where you currently are at, and you look at where it is that you want to get to, like what ceiling you want to break through. If the main question we should be asking ourselves is what needs to happen for me to get there? And that's it. If you knew the answer to that, and I said to you, hey, I'm a genie, right? rub the lamp, you rub the lamp, I come up, I'm like, make your wish. You're like, hey, I'm currently at this revenue number. Like you might say, I'm at 25. I want to get to 50K. So we ask the genie, hey, what do I need to do? If we can find the answer to that, then the plan becomes much easier. So here's a great question to ask. If I asked you to go from your current revenue number to your goal revenue number in the next 10 days, right? I'm not saying you that's the plan, but let's say I said to you, you got to get this done in the next 10 days. What would immediately in your mind come up as the reason why that's not possible? What would be the major bottlenecks that would come up that would make this not possible for you to actually reach that number? Now, for most of us, we may have a different answer, but really there isn't a lot that will change between. Doesn't matter really what level you are. It all comes back down to the same things, to be honest. But we may have different things, right? So if I was to answer this question, I would say client acquisition, and then I would say if I had client acquisition sorted, so if I could just in the next 10 days, if I had a system that could generate enough clients for me to actually hit this target, then the second thing after that would probably be fulfillment, like 100%. And more specifically, it would be team members. I would need like I would be like, no, there's no even if you gave me enough clients to reach this number, I would need to hire like I don't know how many staff members and have them fully ramped up and trained. And then what else would come after that? Not nothing else really. I think those would be the two things for me. Okay. Acquisition and then fulfillment. A team, more specifically the team. Okay. So what is it for you? Write it down. I can give you some reason. I can give you some examples. For the number one reason why most agency owners or online coaching business owners wouldn't be able to hit their revenue targets in say 10 days, the major bottleneck typically is customer acquisition. That is by far the biggest reason. It's that you're relying on referrals, on word of mouth, you're doing outreach yourself, you're doing some cold calling here and there. You may post on social media every now and again. Maybe you run ads, but your ads aren't really that profitable. You don't have a proper system. You wouldn't even know where to begin to try and acquire enough clients within a short amount of, you don't have a system where you can just turn the tap on and then just get enough clients to hit this goal. That's essentially what it is. You don't have a predictable client acquisition system where you could just turn it up. You can just go, all right, well, if I get 100 queries a month, I'll convert 10% of them. I'm at 10 clients, so I'm just going to get 200 clients or 500 clients. You'd be like, I can't do it. I just don't know. I wouldn't know. There's not enough traffic. I don't have enough followers. I don't have enough people to outreach to. I don't have enough time to cold call as many people as I would need. Like, let's say you only have time to cold call 2 hours a day, and the 2 hours a day of cold calling, you book one appointment a day, one appointment or two appointments a day, you get 10 appointments a week, 20, 40 appointments a month, and you're converting at say 20 to 30%. You're at six to eight clients. So let's say you're at 6 to 8 clients and you actually need 30 clients, where you'd be like, well, I can't afford to do more than 2 hours of cold calling. So you literally can't do it. Write down these answers. Okay. If you need to pause the video to go and write these answers down, really think about that. That's fine. But let's make it really clear. So then when we take a look at the reason, we then ask ourselves, which of the reasons come first that then create the secondary issue? Now, for example, the two things that I wrote were number one, client acquisition, and then number two, fulfillment. when I take a look at this, I am way more tempted to try and work on fulfillment because I find it more enjoyable and it's easier to do and it's more fun. Like imagine putting together a system to onboard new staff members faster, to train them up faster, to hire people. That's exciting. I personally find that one of the most exciting things to do in when it comes to running my business. But the problem is most of you will choose to work on a bottleneck, but you're choosing on working, you're working on the wrong bottleneck because certain bottlenecks don't become bottlenecks until you've relieved other bottlenecks. So right now, if I was to go and build out a system on how to hire talent, onboard them, ramp them up, and I had an unlimited way of acquiring talent, I may have solved a future bottleneck, but that future bottleneck being solved that I've spent the next 3 months working on isn't going to do much for me unless I relieve the first bottleneck, right? Which is actually client acquisition. I need to solve client acquisition to even have this problem. For me to have this fulfillment problem, I need to have the first bottleneck sorted. So I want you to then identify in order of most important and what needs to come first to last. So I don't know how many reasons you've written, but you really shouldn't have more than three or four. But for me, it's client acquisition number one, and then it would be fulfillment. So now when I'm putting my plan in place, I'm not really worrying too much about fulfillment right now. Or if I was to put time aside to work on fulfillment, I'd make sure that was where the minority of my time was being put into, not the majority of my time, right? So client acquisition is what I would then put the majority of my time and energy into. So now we circle back. We have our current revenue number. We have our future revenue number. We've now asked ourselves a hypothetical question, which is then exposed what our bottlenecks are. And now that we've identified our bottlenecks, we can start to put a plan in place to relieve them. And just like that, if you could find a way to relieve your bottlenecks, you will by default break through. That is how it works. It's really not that complicated. I've learned in my experience, business itself is not that complicated. It's quite simple. The formula for success is quite simple, but the application of it is difficult. An example I can give you is losing weight is not complicated. It's simple. We consume less calories than we burn and just go to the gym. In theory, it's very simple. Just go to the gym 3, 4 times a week and do not consume more calories than what you burn. If you do that, you will lose weight and you will start to tone up. The theory of it is simple, but it's actually really hard to do. Why? Because you have to, overcome the urge of eating that piece of chocolate or having that donut or eating an extra pizza slice, getting late night cravings and, indulging in food that you shouldn't have had, going out, having the discipline not to order food that's bad for you, to choose the healthy part of the menu, even though you see a burger that looks amazing on there. Not being lazy, actually going to the gym, amount of days you said you would go. It's really hard in practice. Business is the same. Business is actually very simple, right? It's like identify bottleneck, relieve bottleneck, breakthrough. But in practice, it takes a lot of effort and it'll take a lot of time. So just accept that. So then now that we've identified the bottlenecks, let's put a plan in place to alleviate the bottleneck, right? So let's go to your number one bottleneck. I want you to write it down. So for me, it would be client acquisition. Now, when I think of client acquisition, to give you more perspective, my niche is I work with renovators, so bathroom and kitchen renovators, strictly just builders, and just help them get more renovations work. We're a growth agency. We do everything for them, from generating the leads to calling leads, qualifying them, booking the appointments. We even help, our sales team helps get those deals closed too. Like we will follow up the customer, try to negotiate the quote. So we're pretty intensive. So we have an amazing product and our builders love it, and we're pretty intensive. So we do everything for builders. We don't just generate them leads. So what I need is more builders. That's what I need, right? I need more builders. if I could, triple the amount of builders I have, I'd hit my target. Okay. So then I go, okay, well, how do I currently generate my builders, generate builders? Well, I do it through paid ads. That is my method of acquisition. So I ask you, how do you currently get your clients? Now, if your answer is, well, I don't have a system and I don't have a predictable system, I'll circle back. How do I predictably generate my builders right now and how to predictably and profitably and at scale generate my like what system do I have in place? I have a paid ad system. That's my system. I've already got a working system where month in, month out, I put in X amount of dollars to spend, and then I generate X amount of builders at a certain cost per acquisition that is profitable based on my lifetime gross profit. I have that system in place at the moment. It's all set up. I've got my funnels. Yes, some months we perform better than others, but I have a system set up. I don't acquire clients randomly. I have a system. So I ask you again, what's your system? What system do you have in place to acquire new customers? Because in order for you to bridge the gap between where you are now and where it is that you want to be, you obviously need a system, right? Like if client acquisition is your primary bottleneck, you're never going to relieve that bottleneck unless you have a system in place. And to me, it seems simple. And for those of us who already have a system in place, it seems simple. So if you already have like a DM outreach system, or you cold call, or you cold email, or you run ads too, you'd be like, yeah, makes sense. Like I can't even imagine running my business to acquire new customers without a predictable system. But there are some of you out there who don't have a system in place. You quite literally operate off randomness when it comes to acquisition. You're waiting to receive a referral, you're waiting to receive a referral, or you're attending some sort of networking event, or you'll cold call randomly, or you'll run ads for a week and then turn them off and then turn them back on, and it's all very sporadic. There's no proper system. Like you're just operating off randomness, or you're running ads but you're not really tracking things, and you just kind of make decisions based on emotion. You might post some content on Instagram hoping that someone will inquire. Like I remember those days, so I can relate to you. But if that's what you're doing, then you don't have a system, and that's what you need to first go and do. So if I have a system, and for those of you who have a system, I'm gonna jump and speak about what to do if you've already got an existing system. But for those of you who don't have a system, I need you to choose something in order to alleviate the client acquisition bottleneck. And by the way, we will talk about fulfillment as well. So for those of you who don't have a client acquisition issue, and it's more about fulfillment and churn, we'll discuss that. But client acquisition tends to be the most popular things, and it is what it is for me. So that's pretty much what I'm gonna touch on and focus on for now. So let's circle back, right? Let's say you've got a client acquisition problem and you don't have a system in place. Let's start with that. If you don't have a system in place to acquire new customers, and the words are predictably, so there's inputs and outputs. Predictability is I call 100 people a day, every single day. I get two booked calls. And every time I call 100 people, I get two booked calls. And when I call 200 people, I get four booked calls. That's predictability. Okay. Then we have scalability, meaning that what you're doing, you can do it at scale. So I am spending 10,000 a month on ads and I am getting three new clients. And when I spend 20,000 a month on ads, I get six new clients. I am currently sending 50 DMs and I'll get one booked call a day. And now I'll send 100 DMs, I'll get two booked calls, and 150 DMs, I will get three booked calls. That's scalability. And then the last thing is profitability or profitably, right? Making sure that you're doing this profitably. So in other words, that is I am acquiring customers at a price point. So I'm buying customers, I'm buying new clients, I'm acquiring new clients. And what I'm spending, I'm eventually getting back with a profit. And usually that's 3x lifetime gross profit, right? So that's usually a pretty decent benchmark. Anything, above that, if you're getting more than 3x multiple, congratulations, you should be trying to scale your spend. But if your CPA is like, for example, you're spending let's say you make $10,000 in lifetime gross profit from a customer, you're going to make 10 grand, and you spent $3,300, $3,300, and you acquired the customer, you're at a 3x multiple. Perfect. Spend that 3,300 all every day, all day, spend more of it, try to spend as much of that as possible and just keep buying customers because you're always going to make your money back plus a profit, right? So that's the idea, yeah, there. You want to create a system that is predictable, that is scalable, and that is profitable. And if you don't have that in place, then you need to get that done. Now, this is where most of you will go wrong. What you will do is you will try to do more. You will think more is better, but it's not. I've said this before. One acquisition channel and just focus on it. Choose an acquisition channel that you already have built some momentum in, something that you enjoy doing, something you may particularly have an advantage in, and just commit to it. Trust me, believe me, yes, there may be better acquisition channels. For lawyers, it may potentially be better to message them on LinkedIn as opposed to emails. I don't know. I don't know. It might be better to message them on cold call them than it is to send Facebook ads. Sorry, to run Facebook ads. I don't really know the answer to your particular niche. But what I will tell you is that the majority of acquisition channels will work for the majority of niches. That's a fact, right? If we think of the majority of niches that exist out there, accountants, you can message them on LinkedIn, you could send them emails, you could cold call them, and you could run ads. Lawyers, same thing. Solar companies, same thing. Builders, same thing, right? The majority of the niches that exist out there, you may be in a really unique particular niche where it's better to cold call. Great, you can make that assessment and then commit to it. Make your decision. But trust me, for the most part, we didn't get too caught up in this. The acquisition channel that performs the best is usually just the one that you have spent the most time in and obsessively trying to perfect. Okay. There is probably someone out there who has gotten a really amazing email outreach system to acquire builders in my niche, but I may get more builders than them at a better rate and a more scalable because I've just spent more time and energy trying to get ads better. Like it's not about the acquisition channel itself. It's the time you spend and how good you've become at utilizing that particular acquisition channel. Um, and take it from someone who has definitely been in your shoes. I would do everything. I would try and post on social media and try to get referral, like do networking events and cold call randomly, and then send random emails, and then send random DMs, and then run Facebook ads. Like you try to do everything, and then you go, oh, like if I have to choose one. The first time I ever heard one acquisition channel, I was like, man, what should I choose? But the answer was just stick to the one you're currently in and just work to perfect it. So long as your customer is online, like uses Facebook and Instagram, then you should be able to make it work. And if you've got a competitor in your niche who is using email marketing to get clients, then you can. If there's someone who's using Facebook ads to get clients, then you should be able to too. That's a usual test. So let's I want you to select an acquisition channel. It's either going to be cold calling, right? Or it's going to be cold emailing, or it would be cold DMs. Could be cold email, sorry, cold LinkedIn. It could be a mixture of LinkedIn and cold calling. That's fine. You can combine some of these. And like for example, you could have a system to cold email, cold LinkedIn message, then cold call to kind of warm up a prospect up. Yes. And then you could have paid ads, and then paid ads could be, Google, it could be Facebook, and or it could be YouTube, whatever it is. That's we put that in the paid ads category, and that's pretty much it, especially in the agency game. Oh, actually, no, if you're an online coach and you've got like a big following, um, so for example, a mentee I worked with, Shako, who he came and was doing around 25K a month and then hit around 70K a month. His acquisition channel was mainly through inbound inquiries because he had such a big Instagram social media following. So it's still technically Instagram DMs, but it was a mixture of outreach and inbound. But it was Instagram DMs really. So you've got, the cold, then you have the inbound if you've got a big following, or if you don't, then you've got paid ads. Have a think about which one of these do you feel like you have the most advantage in? Do you have the most experience in? Which one of these do you feel like you could do and comfortably do for the next 12 months? So, for example, if you know you're really good on camera and you wouldn't mind recording you like writing like ad scripts, you like recording video ads, you've ran a video ad maybe in the past and it's done well, you don't mind speaking on camera, then you probably have an advantage with Facebook ads. Then you should probably do that, right? But let's say you're incredible on the phones and you could cold call, you have no problem with rejection, you actually enjoy it, and you could just cold call all day every day and it suits you. Like this is what you want to do. Like you're happy to just literally sit there, spend no money and just cold call people all day every day, then do that. If you prefer emails or if you prefer Instagram DMs and you just want to work with Instagram DMs, choose whatever number one you have the most experience in. Number two, you feel the most comfortable in, and the one that you would be willing to do for the longest period of time without it actually working. For me personally, that was paid advertisement, right? Like, yes, I'm spending money, and there's been some months where I've spent and not made, and I know it's uncomfortable to see those debits come out of your account, but I've got a pretty high pain threshold for losing money, because of because of my start and how much money I lost at the beginning, and put myself in debt to become an entrepreneur. And I've been through that. I don't mind, I see numbers on a screen as not much of a big deal. I know eventually things will work out, but that just depends on what it is for you. But just choose something, okay? So if you want, pause this video, sit down, have a bit of a brainstorm, think about what it is that makes the most sense for you and for your business. All right, you've chosen something. Welcome back. Let's keep going. So now let's say you have chosen something or you currently have something that's active. So once we've established an acquisition channel, we then want to what we then want to do is essentially judge it based on judge the metrics, or put together metrics that we need to hit these three criteria points, which is predictability, scalability, and profitability, right? So, for example, with paid ads, are paid ads predictable? Yeah, they're predictable. Are they scalable? Yes, they're scalable. And are they profitable? Well, yes. Well, hopefully they're profitable for you, right? So then we then put your current acquisition channel through the exact same question of, well, if I wanted to scale using this acquisition channel in the next 10 days, what would stop me from being able to do that? And then you actually identify the bottlenecks within the mini bottlenecks contributing to the primary bottleneck. So if I was to think about, well, all right, in the next 10 days, I need to triple the amount of clients that I have. What would stop me from doing that? I would think of, well, number one, the level of spend that would be required. I would say like my campaigns would literally break because every time I've tried to scale, whenever I try to scale my spend, my results, the campaigns don't scale. It's not always proportionate to the amount of spend. There is usually like a teething issue. So I'd be worried. I would say I might have a limiting belief that my market's too small. I'd probably need more creatives. I probably um need to spend more. Hopefully my market's big enough. I need more creatives so that my ads don't go through too much ad fatigue. I then would probably say I'd need more free time to take on sales calls, right? But really, it would just be spend, creatives, and profitability. So really what it would come down to is spend more, have more creatives, and be profitable. the idea of spending enough to triple my business, like I'd have to spend 3 times as much as what I have to get to this point. That's scary to think about in 10 days. And I'm not saying that you should do that. And I'm not saying I'm going to do that, but it does start to expose areas of weakness, or it starts to clearly expose where our bottlenecks are. So realistically, why couldn't I spend enough? If I have spent, I don't know what that number would be. It could be any number. Let's say I've spent you have 50 grand and you've acquired 10 clients, right? So you cost you 5 grand to get a customer. If you want 30 clients in 10 days, the question it would then be, could you spend 150,000 in 10 days, right? Because if the answer was yes, if 5K to acquire a customer was profitable and you could just spend 150 grand and then just in 10 days, would you do it? The answer should be yes, of course. So then if you then go, well, can I do it? And the answer is no, the reason why your answer is no are your bottlenecks. So I would go, well, I don't know how much, I'm not sure if I could scale that. So it'd probably be a lack of knowledge, lack of strategy. It could be my market size is too small. It could be not enough creatives. Whatever it is, I need to start finding a way to alleviate this bottleneck. I need to go, all right, hypothetically speaking, what would need to happen? Are these things true? Or what can I do to figure out if they're true? Right? So then I can go and establish benchmarks and go, well, so long as I can generate a certain number of appointments and my calendar's free enough and I have enough time to attend these calls and my cost per lead stays where it needs to be and my cost per appointment stays where it needs to be. So long as all of the metrics are within KPI, I should be able to spend this amount of money and I'll hit my targets. Right? Now, if the answer is no to this, well, then I may have a market size problem. Maybe I need to expand into a new market. Maybe I need to go outside of Australia. Maybe we need to go to the US. Maybe we need to go to another niche, right? All of these things start to pop up. This is honestly like taking this approach um, has always worked out the best for me because what it does is ask to when you look to accelerate a lot in a short period of time, all the issues everything becomes exposed. Anytime my business has really scaled, it's always just exposed who the wrong employee is, where our systems are weak, where our problems are, what needs attention. Every time we've grown too fast, that's what's happened. So I love growing too fast because growing too fast exposes things that would otherwise be a slow burn. So if you take a look and the things that are holding you back from tripling in 10 days are still going to be the same things that will hold you back from tripling in 2 years or 1 year, except it'll just be on a longer time horizon. So it's really good to do these like hypothetical controlled tests and questions because trust me, there are business models out there where you could spend 150 grand in 10 days and make and like literally triple your business. It's possible where the market size is big enough, where there's enough customers, like I think about it like this. Like let's say for me, I sold my services to builders in Australia. And I go, well, I want to triple, I want to spend X amount, like a crazy number, my entire year's budget, I want to spend it in 10 days. And then I go, well, I can't do that because there's just not enough builders to advertise to online. So that means there's a market problem. Well, if I went to the US and I opened myself up to a 300 million person market instead of 27 million, I would 150,000 in a short period of time may not be that much money, right? Because the market is so big. So then so then I go, perfect. I do that. Then I start solving my next bottleneck, which would be a fulfillment and employing staff, et cetera, et cetera. But I can't get to there unless I solve, problem number one, right? So this is where everything begins to get get really, really exposed. So taking a look at this, if I really realistically, like let's say uh, I actually want to come up with a reasonable number. Um, let's say you are, let's say you acquire clients at 3K. That's your cost per acquisition. And you wanted to acquire 20 new clients and you wanted to do it in 30 days. So you would need to spend, and the most you've ever spent is 9 grand, and you've been acquiring 3 new clients a month, and you want to acquire 20 new clients, 3 grand, you'd need to spend 60K in 30 days. What would you need to do? What would stop you from doing that? What would stop you right now from spending 60 grand? If by increasing your budget, your cost per lead skyrockets, your cost per booking skyrockets, and you just literally like you were getting, $250 appointments and it just goes up to like $1,000, like it's literally impossible to scale, then you have a market size problem. So if you want to grow, you're either going to have to go to another country or you're going to have to expand into another niche. This is where most people go wrong. They will try to fix their ads and adjust their creatives, but realistically, you just got a market size problem. That's your bottleneck. So fix it. Go to a different market, expand your market size, or go to a different niche. It's really that simple. Okay. Um, why else couldn't you spend 60 grand? Well, you don't know how. You don't know how to scale spend. You don't know how to set up Facebook ad campaigns or campaigns to actually spend that much money. You're not sure if you should do one main CBO campaign. How many creative should you be testing? How many audiences should you be testing? How should you be structuring your campaigns? How do you know when to turn off certain things? How do you scale certain campaigns? Should you scale? All of these things you don't know how. So really your bottleneck is knowledge around spend. So you should go and get a consultant who has spent 60K in 30 days and they'll tell you exactly how to do that. By the way, that was actually something I did that paid off dividends. Yeah, I just found a media buyer who had spent the money that I was looking to spend. I asked him how he did it. He opened my eyes and I started implementing what he taught and yeah, was able to scale my spend. For me, it was more so a knowledge thing. Okay. So why can't you spend 60K? Well, let's say you had a market issue, maybe it could be a knowledge issue. Um, why else? Well, maybe it's a creative issue. Maybe you could spend that much, but you just need to pump out more creatives because your creatives begin to fatigue, right? It's not a market problem, it's just a creative fatigue issue. Well, then create a system to then pump out more creatives. But whatever it is, you are now identifying the bottlenecks, contributing to the primary bottleneck, which is then that bottleneck that you need to alleviate so you can break through to a new level. So I was speaking to an agency owner, and he was saying, "Well, I send around 100 DMs a day. My VA does, and I book X amount of appointments." I'm like, "Great. So you have a predictable system where you do this. Perfect. Let's send 300 DMs." Oh, I can't do that. Why not? Um, well, because Instagram limits how many DMs I can send. Once we send more than 100 DMs, like we'll get banned or it doesn't allow us. All right, cool. So what can you do to fix that? Well, I could get other Instagram accounts and warm them up and buy other accounts potentially, or just get other accounts and warm them up, and then I can alleviate that. And I'm like, all right, perfect. So go and do that. Oh, but my VA at the moment is only limited. She can only send 100 DMs. Okay, why don't we hire another VA? Perfect. Problem solved. Okay, now we have enough accounts and we have enough VAs. What's the problem? Honestly, man, in literally 10 days, we've exhausted our list. Like there's just no more people in our niche that we can DM. All right, let's expand, go into a different niche or go to another country. It's that simple. It's that simple. And when you ask yourself a question on like how to alleviate like how to make big shit happen big scale happen in a short period of time, what happens is that these bottlenecks just get exposed faster. So instead of it being like this slow burn, it happens very, very quickly. So I really recommend going down this path. So whether it's cold DMs, cold outreach through emails, cold calling, whether it's cold paid advertising, write down the bottlenecks that are contributing to the primary bottleneck. Ask yourself these questions over and over again. Why can't I do this and this in 10 days? Well, why can't I do this in 10 days? And then everything else will start to expose itself. And then put a plan in place to fix it. So now for me, I'll take a look and go, okay, if I wanted to spend, 100,000 a month acquiring new builders, could I potentially do that? Well, no, I can't, because I would argue that the Australian market is just not big enough. It's just not big enough, right? There's just not enough builders out there. We're a pretty small market. I'd say we're too small. So then I have a decision to make. Either I now go into a different country, or and I might start with, say, for example, New Zealand, and then I may go to a neighboring country, or I may just go to the US. Now I've got a 300 million person like economy, or not economy, sorry, like population. Um, or I have to go into a new niche. It's just that simple. It may not be fun. It would be awesome if I had an unlimited amount of clients to acquire. But if I want to reach my personal business targets, then this is what I'm going to have to do. Now, let's say I wanted to stay in Australia and I've reached my capacity paid advertisements wise. I'll then go, all right, maybe this particular acquisition channel is exhausted. Instead of going to a different country, or I could just try the easier option would be just to go to New Zealand, right? Because New Zealand's pretty similar to Australia. Maybe I might think to go to America, but I'm like, okay, the American market is a completely different market. Things are different over there. And I know this because I've expanded to the US before. I've spoken to like builders in America. It's different. They're just a different culture, different. They're different. Their competition is different. Everything is different down there. Okay. I'm not saying it can't work, but it is different. And so before entering a new market, I might go, well, could I potentially stay within my current market, say Australia or New Zealand, and keep what I'm doing paid advertisement wise, but I've obviously reached my ceiling. Could I now expand to a new acquisition channel? Could I now potentially go to cold calling, cold emails, cold DMs? And then once I've exhausted that there, then I'll move on to the next acquisition channel. And once I've gotten like I've truly tapped out the market, then I might think about expanding to a new country. These are decisions you can make, but depending on your niche, your industry, your goals. Like personally for me, I really don't want to go into a different niche. I'd rather just stay in my current niche. So I'll personally make the decision not to go into a new niche. Although going into a new niche may be easier. That might instantly open me up and I might book way more calls, but I personally don't want to do that. It's not aligned with my long-term goals. I really want to stick to my niche. I want to become the absolute best in my current niche. So I'll opt to just go and either to a different country or to relieve the bottleneck by adding new acquisition channels. Whatever it is, that's what we need to be focusing our time and energy on, and that's what you need to be focusing your time and energy on. Okay. Now, obviously, with that said, I do want to caveat this entire conversation with something. And what I want to put as a caveat is do not mistake your lack of knowledge and your lack of knowledge and your lack of skill. Don't mistake that for market conditions. So what I mean by that is it's really tempting for me to say, for example, go, well, I just said there's not enough builders out there, right? Every time I scale my ads, results drop off. It's tempting for me to say that the market's too small. But realistically, it may not be too small. My ads just might not be good enough. I may not have the right strategy. Um, so I want you to keep that in mind. I want you to really keep that in mind. Now, um, a great way to make sure that you are being objective is either number one, work with someone who can quickly tell you there's actually room for growth here. You just need to get better, because they can go, well, no, there's so much you can do to improve. And I've had those moments too where I'm like, nah, man, there's something wrong. I can't get results. There's something wrong with the market. And then like I've just implemented a different strategy and then my results just skyrocket. So I know it's usually for the most part like a strategy thing. You can get objective by the working with someone who can like tell you, no, actually, look, you're doing everything correctly, but your market's too small. Or you can get objective by finding out how many people are in your market. So if you're in the lawyer niche and you know that there are 10,000 law firms out there, and through your cold DMs and outreach and cold calling and the amount of Facebook ads you've ran, you've literally spoken to, 5,000 of these law firms, or, 8,000 of these firms, then, and you've kept track of that, then realistically you can go, yeah, I've exhausted the market. But if you've only, worked with 20 law firms and only spoken to like, 1,500 of them, and there's 10,000, then no, there's a lot more room for you to grow. There's a lot more room for you to move to acquire more customers essentially. So that's one thing I will caveat. Just be careful not to quickly blame your market, and understand it usually is just the fact that you're not good enough, and you don't you're not good enough, and you need the right strategy. So yeah, I'll caveat by saying that. Now, once we identify that primary bottleneck, then you put a plan in place. So now let's put a plan in place. So I might take a look at this and go, all right, I'm going to go find out how many builders exist in my target market in Australia. I'm going to do an analysis to figure out just how many of them we've potentially reached. I might take a look at potentially other markets to expand into, such as New Zealand. I want you to put together that plan. I'm going to put together a plan. I want you to put together a plan as well, right? Your plan could just literally be make a decision on what acquisition channel I'm going to take, go and buy a program or work with a mentor or coach who's like a professional in cold calling, for example, or paid ads acquisition. Like the knowledge exists out there. I highly recommend you just skip steps and just pay someone to tell you, how to get this done right away. Like if you're looking to get into cold DMs or how to acquire customers through paid ads, I'd highly recommend you don't try and do it yourself, because if you do it yourself, you'll spend a lot of time, which is money, and you'll spend a lot of money, literal money, making mistakes when someone out there will just be able to tell you the exact formula and the right way of thinking to get results. It'll help you skip steps. So understand, yeah, there's always a cost to investing into mentors and coaches and programs, but there's also the cost of doing nothing. There's opportunity costs and there's actual costs. Like if I think about all the costs I've incurred trying to figure out how to make my ads work, it would have been just better for me to pay someone there for their program or to work with that particular mentor. I would have saved, tens and tens of thousands in paid advertisement mistakes, even more potentially. So just consider that. So now that you've identified your bottleneck, you put a plan in place to alleviate the bottleneck. The next thing that I want you to do is as follows, and this is pretty much what I'm going to leave you with. I want you to do an analysis, an audit of your time. I'd recommend that you start utilizing your calendar to, block out time. Like you should have a certain time blocked out in your calendar to do certain activities, and everything that you do, for the most part, try to include it in your calendar. Like if you do a 2 hour deep work block, you should put that there. If you check your emails or if you're going to have meetings with your team, everything should just be laid out in your calendar. The reason why you should do that is because your calendar then you can analyze to see what percentage of your time you're actually spending on certain tasks and activities. And I want you to then take a look at what it is that you're doing throughout your week and ask yourself, how much of my time am I actually currently putting in alleviating this primary bottleneck, which, for example, could be client acquisition? And for the majority of you, you'll be like, man, probably like 5 or 10%, because majority of my time is like speaking to clients. I'm working on trying to do my funnel or my website, and I'm like trying to record new videos and create content. And there's all these other things that you're doing that isn't actually fixing your bottleneck. And here's what I want you to do: flip it on its head. Flip everything on its head. Like almost just make a decision, just not to do any of the other stuff you're doing. And whatever the consequence is, just be okay with it. Just be okay with it. Obviously, do the minimum of what you need to do to, keep your clients happy. But anything to do with like building a website or posting on social media, anything that is not fixing your client acquisition bottleneck or the primary bottleneck that you have, don't do it. Just don't do it, because it's going to be a waste of time. Your business is stuck and you're not breaking through. And it's all because you have not alleviated the primary bottleneck. So anything else that you do, whether it's checking your emails, responding to clients, answering client phone calls, working on fulfillments, trying to improve your system, try to optimize and automate and streamline things, having these unnecessary meetings with your team, posting unnecessary content on social media when that's not your primary acquisition channel, all of these things that you're doing are a complete waste of time. They are maintenance activities that you'll do and you'll just stay stuck where you are. If you actually want to start breaking through, you need to then go and spend 90% of your time or 80% of your time on the primary bottleneck, which would be client acquisition, for example. And then if you do that, you will then give that enough time and energy to be fixed. And then when you break through, that's where you have your breakthrough past 20K and you hit 30, 40 so quickly, because you've actually solved the primary bottleneck that's stopping you from growing. And this is not an easy thing to do. You will face a lot of resistance. You will sit there and you'll go, oh, like, oh my God, my client's going to get upset, my team, my this, my that, things are going to break, things are going to go wrong. Oh my God, I need to check my Slack, I need to check my emails, I can't, I have to post on social media. Like, you're going to face so much resistance and you almost feel guilt for working on fixing this primary bottleneck. And all of those feelings you're feeling are totally normal, but I want you to overcome them and I want you to feel them and still power through and just have faith. You have to. The reason why you're feeling all these feelings of resistance is not because what you're focusing on is wrong. It's simply because your old identity, for the most part, is terrified of what will happen when you fix this problem, because it knows you're going to reach new levels and it doesn't want you to reach new levels, because to reach new levels, you become a different person, you become a different character, you'll have a different role in your business, you'll have different problems, you literally change. And so there's a part of you that's resisting that change because it's comfortable, right? Um, and it's also just learned habits. Like if you've been waking up every day and the first thing you do is check your emails and you're just constantly inside of Slack or you're speaking with your team and you got your emails open and you're just answering phone calls and calling your clients all the time and you're just obsessed with making sure every client has the perfect experience. This is all learned habits. And even if a habit is bad for you, when you stop the habit that's constantly giving you dopamine, like checking emails is dopamine, checking Slack is dopamine, like you're addicted to stress, like you need to be on top of all the issues because you just can't. All of these things are just learned habits. And when you disconnect from that stuff, your identity, your person will resist it, and you just won't know what to do, and you'll feel all these feelings of anxiety and stress, and you feel all this enormous resistance, and you just got to battle through it. You got to keep pushing. Ignore it. Focus on the primary bottleneck. And it's easier said than done. So what I said, it's simple, but it's very difficult. Even as I say it, don't think I have an easy time doing it. Starting tomorrow, I know what I need to be doing. I know what I need to focus my time and energy on, but man, I would rather just check my emails. I'd rather check my Slack. I'd rather have a meeting with my team and do a training session. I'd rather call one of my clients, make sure they're happy. I'd rather check Slack all day, every day. I'd rather just check my ads, maybe run a new ad, maybe do a new creative, maybe post another video on social media. These things are easy to do, but they're not the bottleneck that I need to focus on. And so this is how we break through. We break through by overcoming that resistance and pain and just focusing on working on the activities inside of our business that are actually stopping us from growing. That's how we break through ceilings. Now, I do know I said that I would talk about fulfillment if fulfillment's your bottleneck, but honestly, I don't think that it's necessary because it pretty much takes the same line of logic. Like if you don't have a problem with acquiring clients and you're knocking clients back, and so the only reason you would be able to triple is because you don't have the team, well, then go and fix that problem. Sit down and what's the bottleneck? Like when you say, I don't have enough staff members, does that mean I don't have a predictable way of acquiring new talent? Okay, if not, then I need to go and find a predictable way of acquiring new talent. Is it, I know I do have enough talent, but I don't have a system to actually onboard them and ramp them up quick enough? Well, I need to go fix that problem. It takes the exact same approach. The actual key thing here is take whatever it is that you want to do, ask yourself why you couldn't do it within a small, tiny time horizon, and then that'll quickly expose to you what those bottlenecks are. And then you can get to work putting together a plan to fix them. And then whatever it is that you come up with, I want you to then commit the next 3, 6, 12 months to face as much resistance as possible and just keep prioritizing the majority of your time, fixing the main bottleneck, and don't stop working on it until the bottleneck is fixed. And once it's fixed, then you can move on to the next thing. Once your client acquisition issue is fixed, then you've got an inflow of clients, then go and spend your time with the next bottleneck, which is growing your team and fulfillment. Okay. But you can't focus on fulfillment and growing your team until you've fixed issue number one. If you're in a business partnership, then yeah, you could probably get ahead because you could just focus on one thing and your partner could focus on the next thing. But that's pretty much what you need to be doing. So hopefully this video has helped you. I know it's been a long one. I found it just as beneficial to sit here and think about some of these things myself as I hope it has been for you guys. So I know if I benefited from it, I hope that you guys have as well. If you care about your friends or certain people in your life and you want to see them grow their business, I'd love for you to share this video with them. And don't hesitate to come back to this video in the future and continuously go through this exercise with me. I hope it helps you. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on Instagram. Otherwise, I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.